Ta-da. Here I am. How's everybody doing? Nope, don't talk. You're muted. Listen, it is almost 7 o'clock, and I promised Krista that I would keep my rambling to the in-betweens. Um, Write questions into the chat. And once we get joined by our special guest star, we will begin with the video presentation. But if you guys want to throw anything into chat, we can kill time until the star gets here. This is being recorded. The intent is that this is going to be put up on the YouTubes, on my brand spanking new 4 Bytes YouTube channel. It's Krista, everybody. All right, we can get rolling. Um, hang on, hang on. This is all old dog's new tricks, but I figure I might be an inspiring lesson of somebody who actually can learn things. But all right, just get to the video. Look, I'm going to apologize before I show you this. I totally got it in the wrong aspect. I'll fix it next time. But if there's any way you could make it bigger on your own screen because to compensate for my error, that'd be great. Thank you. In 2009, when I got an invitation to something called Nickel City Chef, I was flabbergasted. I love the show, but how can you do that? I asked her. You got to line up the camera crews and everything. But she did it. And I was wondering, why would somebody from Seattle do that? What is the motivation? But it turned out she just wanted things to be better for everybody. And the work she's done over the years has made this town a better eating town for everyone. And I think we would agree that the work's not done yet. She's the editor of Buffalo Spree. I got this thing going, and we're going to try to figure out what we can do to take it from here. Stay tuned. You can unmute yourself now, Krista, I think.
That's dangerous, but yes, I have unmuted myself.
Well, crazy, crazy, crazy. Here it is. Talked about this moment perhaps happening over a few years, but here it is. I got my own thing now. And
Congratulations. Congratulations, Andrew, from all of us.
and well, nobody can stop me from ruining myself. So let's do it by trying to figure out how to make the glory of Buffalo food and restaurants completely inescapable to the rest of the world.
Wow. Well, we've certainly tried a lot of things. It's interesting to talk about Nickel City Chef, given that we wrapped it what'll be, five years ago, I think. Um, and to think about its impact or perhaps its lack of impact, depending on the perspective. It's very interesting these days as a city dweller, Andrew. I will tell you the thing so I went to, for people who don't know, I lived in Boston from halfway through about 2018 until about halfway through 2021. When we were doing the last season of Nickel City Chef, I was living halfway in Boston and halfway in Buffalo. And came back midway through 2021, and I lived downtown. And the thing that I've noticed the most is that the bulk of the people living downtown are new to Buffalo. The bulk of the people I see in the Elmwood Village and in North Buffalo and out at events and at art openings, so many people are people who grew up in the first ring of suburbs or even, in an outer county and have transported or transplanted themselves here to Buffalo for a variety of reasons. And so it's almost as if everything that happened before COVID didn't happen at all, is sort of the way that I am interpreting that. I don't know if you've discovered that at all, Andrew, in your effort to write stories and chronicle what's happened here.
There's definitely that crowd. It's a mixed bag. There's just so many different types of consumers out there. There's still, the people in the suburbs who are still looking for, a deal and a good meal, and the people who only go out twice a year, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm in with that. But there's definitely a big influx of, I guess the way I would characterize it is people who can live anywhere and decided to live in Buffalo. the
Yeah.
laptop crowd, the IT people, work from home.
Well,
Relatively reasonable real estate, um, a place with some interesting things going on where it doesn't cost a mint to get a cultural situation up and running, perhaps. If you have other ambitions and you're secure and you're making money in a non office job, Buffalo has a lot to attract people.
Well, Buffalo has always been that way. I mean, there's always been, even back into the 60s and 70s, during, the time in which it was quote unquote becoming the brain drain or whatever, there was this like great opportunity that hatched a ton of like music and art and all kinds of interesting and exciting things, because when the cost of living is reasonable, a person can have a working stiff's job and still afford to do other things in their off time. So I hope that is just evolved into that now people can pursue those things while having remote jobs instead of relying on solely Buffalo's economy to sort of float their boat. But I think I guess the kind of full circle thing I was thinking about is that I find if I were a person who had just moved to Buffalo, there is both an overwhelming amount of information and also an incredible lack of information at the same time with which to
I'm trying,
with
Go ahead.
which to understand sort of how things work, right? Like I understood the restaurant industry because I came up in it, but if I had come from outside and tried to figure all of that out, it would have been really hard. So I don't know.
Let's go. Let's go back in time. What did you know about the restaurant industry when you showed up in Buffalo already?
I had worked in several restaurants, but also doing other things. So right when I left Seattle, I moved to Seattle I moved from Seattle because the rent was cheap. So I was living in Seattle about 10 to 15 miles outside of the city, sharing like a 3-bedroom apartment with 9 people and paying $1,200 a month rent and making $7.50 an hour. And I was just never going to escape that. It with rents at that price. It was just a time when Seattle was booming. And so when I saw that the prices of rent here in Buffalo were like $400 for a 3-bedroom apartment, my then husband and I got in a car and drove here. And so when I arrived, I continued to look for work in the field that I had been trained in. I was looking for work in nonprofits, but I had a nose ring and like a really butchy haircut, and I was wearing Doc Martens. And in 1992, that was really freaking people in Buffalo out. And I had a very hard time finding work. And so I transitioned back into sort of the restaurant retail world to try to get my grip. And I spent a good number of years kind of like kicking around, living it up. Buffalo's a great party town. It's a fun time, good time. And then ended up being on the opening management team for Pearl Street Grill and Brewery in 1997. And that is where I met my second husband, and also a lot of people who are still in the restaurant industry, including Jill and Steve Gedra, Roy Bakos, Drew Love, the Buckleys, a large number of sort of restaurant folks there. And that was the beginning of the end.
As I take the opportunity to shout out our friend Roy Bakos. We share something else. He and I, we're both instructors in English 105 sections at the University of Buffalo this semester.
Nice.
If you're out there, Roy, semester's end, it's coming, baby. It's going to be okay. But I'm sorry. Let's get back to the point. So you did that. You did Nickel City Chef. You did a whole bunch of other things I won't get into here, including establishing the only industry night that regularly happened that I know of, and a lot of cross-pollination occurred. We'll skip right past that and get to the point, which is, what have you learned from all that? What should we do now, you think?
Oof.
I mean, it's a big one. It's the big one. It's the big kahuna. There you go. Boom. Solar plexus.
Yeah, I mean, right. I hardly warmed up. I think we're in a state of transition. I have as a scene and as a city. I think post COVID, we did the thing, right? We built the Renaissance. Oh, all the fanfare. We got all the fanfare. We've got booming tourism. We've got great press. We've got all kinds of people who think it's weird when you start telling them why Buffalo's a cool place because they already know it. Like that thing happened, and it happened on the backs of a whole generation of people who just busted their ass in their varying sector of industry. and it helped with the Buffalo Billion. It had a lot to do with that as well, in funding things that promoted tourism on a larger level. So I think that in a lot of ways we've accomplished a lot of things, but post COVID, I feel like there's this moment where some of the people who've been hustling for 10 plus years are a little tired or having kids or want a different life. And it's time for like the new blood. And we see that happening a lot in other industries right now. Fashion, art, killing it. I think that restaurants and music are coming back and that's where we're going next. But I fear that we've got a little bit of a lull here during the coming election in the winter or whatever before we really see that match some of the other sectors, culture sectors in the area. I don't know if that really answered your question, Andrew, but what I will say is I don't think there's a silver bullet. There's no silver bullet for how to get Buffalo on the map for having great food. And a lot of people, I did the math as you asked, Andrew, a lot of people have cycled through the James Beard Foundation, have done what they can to communicate with Michelin, have applied for the very pricey Wine Spectator Awards, have like done what they feel they can do as individual operators to get their name out there. I don't know, other than Buffalo or a group of restaurants from Buffalo hiring a publicist who works at a national level, if there is anything else that can be done to change the storyline.
Oh, way to lay down the challenge for me, Krista. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll do it. I'll do what I can.
You can do it if you can for a long time.
Here's the thing that's super frustrating so far. With this digital outlet, maybe things are different. The thing that's been super, super frustrating for me as a food journalist in Buffalo is that I only have room to tell 2 stories out of every 10 that I think should be told. And I think, shifting to a paper-free format is going to really help with that. So what I would say to the audience and to you is, in a year from now, today, so it's what, December 4th, a year from today, I would like to be interviewed about how'd you do this year? Because here's the thing, I have had all the ammunition we needed, but I was not particularly free to do things as I saw fit. And the great thing is, when I say ammunition, maybe I shouldn't use that deadly term, but the hardworking restaurant people of Buffalo, Erie County, Niagara County, Western New York, the farmers, the migrant workers who pick the apples, they are all just absolutely killing it out there, doing great stuff. And I have all the facts that I need to get the work done. And I just need to get some images and get some packages together, is my feeling. And I am writing episodes of TV scripts for people who make food television and stuff like that. And what I'm saying is, all the hard part from my point of view has already been done. There's all those people already out there busting their asses, putting their livings on the line to make great things for their neighbors and hopefully making a living thereby. They're doing all the work. We just need to get the word to the people.
I think you're right. I think you're right in terms of communicating with our own region. I think out of our region, it is a much more complex scenario than that. Not to rain on your parade, because I do think that what you're doing is important.
When have you ever apologized for raining on my parade? Ladies and gentlemen, Krista is the person who I went to very early in my review career when I wasn't really sure what was going on or whether I had the right to like make a certain judgment, because I came from the straight journalism world where you had your opinions beaten out of you by a succession of city editors. Like, it was not, I mean, if I wanted your opinion, I would beat it out of you, was a thing you would hear. So, and they're like, hey, you should writing restaurant reviews. And so I'm like, what, you want me to give my opinion? So the whole matter in my head wasn't really settled about like what kind of shots I could call, until I had a conversation with my friend Krista. And she said to me during a podcast, the Salt Podcast, another project, you're going to be the man you have to be the man. And she didn't mean it in a masculine sense, but like if you're going to be a person whose opinion matters in food in town, you have to hold on to that. You have to justify it. You have to make it real, and then you know, make what you can of it. You have to come out, state your opinion, stand behind them, and try to use that megaphone that fate has handed you to do some good in this world.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, the way that I always thought about it is that, in terms of dollars, every, column inch of newspaper or every square inch of print magazine has a dollar value. We know that's how you sell advertising. And so if you're going to give that away to somebody, you need to think about who can benefit from it the most, whether it's the customer or the restaurant, and utilizing that platform as a way to really help grow and nurture the best, most special, most exciting things that are happening in the industry. And, I think I like to think of myself as a straight talker. Michael Dimmer calls me the pusher, which I guess is nicer than straight talker. I don't know. He's like, you always push everybody. You push everybody. So,
hey, you got any of that sour diesel there, Krista?
Yeah.
Just kidding, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody knows she only does indicas. So go ahead. Sorry.
I don't actually do any weed at all.
He doesn't actually do any weed at all. Let's get on the record here. This is being recorded.
No, just for reals. I'm really not that. I don't like being out of control that much anymore. So, but yeah, so I think that the local industry has a lot of opportunity ahead of it. Is a lot of new blood, and there is also this access to sort of a never unending amount of inspiration through your phone that generations of restaurateurs would have given an arm for before this generation. So I still think there's a lot of opportunity, but I do think that kind of rising above maybe Cleveland or Pittsburgh or, even Columbus is really killing it now, or other maybe non-Rust Belt cities that are our size in terms of reputation really requires sort of a shared decision to try and make that happen. One journalist, two journalists, one program, one James Beard Award winner is not going to do that for us. It has to be something bigger.
Not talking like that, it won't. Sorry. Well, I mean, I guess my response is I don't want to be compared to any other city. I just want our awesomeness to be known, whatever that is.
But that's the thing, right? Like an awesomeness has to have some kind of description. And, Portland, if you think about what Portland's restaurant scene is famous for, you kind of have a sense of what that is without somebody having to put words on it, right? And you could say the same thing for some other cities, that they have like a particular thing they're offering. And outside of like pizza and wings, we have had a hard time identifying that. And the reason we had so much success in this arena between 2011 and 2017 or 18 is because we had a storyline about 7,500 farms in Western New York, hyper local sourcing, and farms who were extending their season year round to accommodate restaurants, which was sort of unheard of at the time and now is very commonplace. And we had maybe 10 good restaurants that you could say were doing that program. And so that really, even though they were all unique, so that really gave us a storyline. Outside of the immigrant storyline and the pizza and wings storyline, I'm not sure we have one right now. We are all sort of like floating out there in space doing our own thing. There's not as much connectivity or sort of like connectivity, I guess is the right word, between restaurants as there used to be. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
You just walked by the immigrant story right there like it was nothing.
Oh, I think it's something. I think it's a very important something. But I think that when most people are talking about having Buffalo known for food, they're thinking of fine dining more than they are thinking of everyday restaurants or smaller immigrant-owned restaurants.
I feel like you can do it in one sentence. Did you know that in Buffalo, New York, there are 2 rooms where you can eat 12 cuisines combined and never pay $20 for a dish?
Yeah, I mean it's good, right? But there are
look, I mean, that is
West Side
that's a
Bazaar has
narrative.
been
That's
West
a
Side
hook.
Bazaar. has been in Bon Appetit. It's been in the Wall Street Journal. It's been in the New York Times. It's been in all of those publications. The West Side Bazaar and its counterpart, the Downtown Bazaar, are incredibly important and exciting incubator takes on food halls that are not common elsewhere, for sure. But those are, a writer would see that as a story about Wheatie or the West Side Bazaar, as we've seen through Bon Appetit, etc. They wouldn't see it as a story about Buffalo, unfortunately.
We just have to find the right writers, or I have to write the story myself or whatever, because there's no way you can say to a person who you can make hungry that, did you know in Buffalo, New York, only a 1 hour flight from JFK or Boston, you can walk into these rooms and do some damage for less than the cost of the flight. Anyways, my alarm's going off. So that means it's time for our first prize. So listen, everybody, I apologize for getting your hopes up with the actual quiz thing. Haven't got that part figured out yet, but are we going to give something away right now? Yes, we are. And I know that, lagging internet is a thing, but here's how this is going to work. I'm going to ask you a question. Everybody gets a question at once. First, write answer in chat. So I'm sorry if you have lag and somebody's playing, some video game somewhere in your house, but this is just going to be left up to the speed of the internet, and I warrant no fairness about any of this. So I'll be right back. I have to get the cookbook. So I went through the pilot car. So I went through the pilot cookbooks that I've been saving because I actually want them, but I'm deaccessioning. These are all completely unread, unthumbed through. Still have the press releases in them. So the winner can have their choice of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. This is a fantastic book. So many people have said this book and said, like, it changed the way they actually cook. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's foundational.
It occurred to me that this is so popular that the winner might have a copy of it. In that case, as consolation prize, a semi-autobiographical thing from Edward Lee called Buttermilk Graffiti. I read part of it online, and that's why I asked for it, and I got it, but I never read it. It's very interesting. If you're gluten-free or something, we can get you something else. So,
my favorites too. Those are good selections.
I hope everybody's ready, and here is the question. What sort of fish are French quenelle makers fond of using? Scotty Harris for the win, Pike. And that's a setup because anybody who actually read what I sent you before this show went down would know the answer, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to actually read the stuff I send you. Just pay me for it. All right. So, hey, Scotty, which is it going to be?
I have the digital of Edward Lee, and I've owned Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat since it came out.
All right, wait, I got other choices.
You have, Scotty.
Hang on, right on. Hang on.
No. Save it and give it to somebody else.
Well, hang on.
I don't know if Chris has ever seen my collection.
Hang on. Scotty. Hey, Starship Scotty, look at me.
You're on the TV over here.
So how about this one?
I don't know if Scotty needs a soup cookbook. Have you ever eaten any of Scotty's food?
I know. Right. Well, we don't want to hang up the show too much, Scotty. Make up your mind later.
Yeah. No. Just keep it. Move along.
You're killing the buzz, Scotty. You're just killing it for everyone. Right. Before we proceed, by now some of you might have summoned the courage to ask some questions or not. If not, we'll proceed with some sort of rambling. I don't know. All right. Well, onwards then. Um, Krista, um, I know this is a game we play to torture each other, but there's no reason we shouldn't let the rest of you in on it. Krista, what kind of restaurants do you think Buffalo should have that you really miss? Like we do it to like just like, oh,
Yeah, well, I mean, at the top of my two of the things at the top of my list for a very, very long time are here, which is great, which is Korean food and Filipino food. We have now two options or more for each, so that's great. Not that I didn't like Ararang or Wuchan, just that I was looking for more like home style Korean food, and we definitely have a couple of options for that now. The thing that I really, the two types of food that I'm a huge fan of, which is no surprise and probably makes me look old, that I wish we had here is Spanish cuisine and a broader range of French cuisine. These are the things that I need in my life. These are the things that I eat when I go to Toronto or really anywhere else. And that, you know, we've had very modest options for over the years and none at all really right now outside of, I know that Webster's Bistro serves some classic French fare and that some restaurant veterans are opening Canal in the former Rue Franklin space. What's the finger?
Finger is, if you miss Spanish food, have you been to Moriarty?
Yes, I have been to Moriarty,
They
and
have some decent Spanishish things, small
they do,
things.
but they yes,
The
they
dish
have
of codfish and just white beans and herbs. I'm like,
yes, they have a small number of tapas on their menu, but it's really not what I'm thinking of, Andrew. I'm thinking of full court Spanish restaurant. And Moriarty's
we're
hours are
all not lucky
challenging.
enough to have gone to Spain. I mean, really.
Moriarty's hours are really challenging
Yeah,
for a lot of folks, including
sure.
me. So
I'll bring you some next time they make the croquettes because they are just nuts.
I have had those before. They are very good.
Oh, if I was going to confess to things I miss and that things I wish existed, I would say a couple of them, as you really got plugged recently. We have a real dim sum parlor, not with carts, but with one robot. But they're making that stuff, and not all of it is going to be like, wow, I wish I was here instead of Manhattan. But by gum, it's right in Tonawanda, and some of it is really, really good, including, as I pointed out, I think the best roast duck in town right now.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, when I get a question about roast duck, I think back to the roast duck at Sharf's, okay, way back, made by the original owner. It was delightful, but things come and things go. And sometimes, if you want roast duck, you got to cross, party lines. You got to cross cuisines. You got to do what you got to do, right?
Fair
Um,
enough. Or you could just roast a duck at home.
whoa, 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 whoa. So, and I mean, another thing that is Turkish food. I mean, look, I
Mm.
drive to Rochester, but I just wish it was here.
No, that's a good call. That's a good call for sure.
I mean, the bread, the lamacun, the whole,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole
Okay,
Michi,
so
the whole
it's if
Michigas.
I'm gonna throw in one more then, which will probably, if it does happen, not be good. So don't get excited if it happens, because I think it'll be bad if it does happen. But that would be Hawaiian fare. I would love a Hawaiian restaurant.
There's a real Hawaiian restaurant in Batavia, New York.
I'm aware. How has that been for you?
I enjoyed it and reviewed it positively in my former employ. Although, actually, maybe you'll be reading it later because it turns out that I actually own all of my restaurant reviews because that's part of the freelance contract. So
Yes,
I
it
will
is.
be using them in the report going forward.
Yeah, no, they're it's great to own all of your stuff.
I mean, when I think about sort of going back to the topic of the future of things, I mean, I see some super, super hopeful signs. Um, and I was thinking about this as I was writing my first review under the new regime here, under the new sense of freedom. And I cannot review Manuel Ocasio at the Grange without getting into why the whole project is so inspiring. when I say the whole project, not only is the food brilliant, and it's been brilliant since Brad opened the place, but he and his former wife and business partner have built an organization where they are proving there's another way to run a restaurant, and a restaurant operation with multiple restaurants. They are proving that you can do it without chewing people up, burning them out, and just getting another one. They have proven that you can build a business that makes money and builds people.
Fair
And
enough.
it wasn't until just recently I cracked the code and I cornered Brad and I had some conversations with him about this so I could write the review. And their sous chefs start with 2 weeks PT. Well, no, they can. Their sous chefs can build up to 2 weeks PTO upon being hired. That's paid time off. For those of you who on the conversation here who are not aware, paid time off as part of your deal as a restaurant employee is quite unheard. Well, I mean, 2%, 1% less.
No, even like executive chefs, if you're at Buffalo and you're working in a small independent restaurant or a small independent restaurant group, and you're not working in any kind of corporate setting, there's a good chance you'll never have paid time off, even if you're very, very sick.
And again, if I'm sorry if it's just sort of insider stuff, a sous chef is kind of like usually like the third in command or the second in command, more or less. Like in other words, this is a lieutenant or a sergeant. This is not the general either. Like so, basically, people and they create a situation where young cooks, young bussers, young servers can grow up in an environment where and look around and be like, hey, a different way is possible. And then they're going to go up and go out. I mean, the thing that tipped me off originally that something was going on really weird at the Grange was when Mike Thill, after 100 Acres closed, Mike Thill, super talented. He could have worked for anybody who wanted to throw a bunch of money at him. He could have run any restaurant, but he went back to work for Brad at the Grange. I'm like, that's not the way it usually works. That's not the trajectory you usually see. I'm like, he must have really valued that. He worked there for years. And now he runs Whalen Brewing Company Kitchen, which is another operation. He built it out. He's got his own ship now.
I think
And
one of the things you're pointing out, Andrew, that's really important to talk about when we talk about the future of restaurants in Buffalo is that a predominant number of our restaurants are run by really entrepreneurial minded chefs or business people who maybe haven't been exposed to a restaurant group or who really understand how to scale a restaurant to be more than two operations or even one operation in some instance. We don't have middle management here. So because of the price structure of menus in Buffalo, restaurants can't afford to hire a lot of management. Typically what would happen in another city is that a middle manager would go start their own place, partner up with a chef, partner up with a wine person, partner up with an investor, and go start their own place. We don't really have middle management here. So that means that really the only way we're going to get more restaurants is another new owner or a restaurant that tries to open multiple locations. And a lot of very capable restaurant people have struggled or have failed or have never even tried to open a second, third, or fourth location because scaling is a special skill. And if you've never been on the bottom ground of a restaurant that's scaled, you don't have the systems in place required to really do that successfully necessarily. It's more than just systems and bodies, but it's also luck. But for sure, that is another challenge that we face in a city this size. And Pittsburgh and other places face that challenge as well. You're not going to find a lot of like $100,000 general managers salaries in Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Columbus either. So I think scaling is important, and it's as much about the HR side as it is about the other sides as well.
I guess I'm going to go back to the Grange here and just point out that what they've done in terms of getting the right people is they grew the right people
yes
into that, and they committed to that. And when you're on the bottom rung of whatever that operation is, whether you're emptying the garbage or whatever, when you look around and you see that if you're there for a year, there is advancement. You can go up and you can get to a place where you can have health insurance and a kid, which is unheard of, by the way, for everybody else in the restaurant world, being a thing where, like, you can actually go and take time for something. Anyways, maybe I'm beating this thing to death, but I don't know. What else do you guys think want to talk about? No. Did you think I'd run out of things to talk about?
I don't know. We talk a lot, Andrew, so maybe.
Not a chance. So the other day, I was down at the West Side Bazaar, and I noticed that there was about 6 or 8 things there that are each going to end up probably with their own individual story. I just have to tell you what it felt like. It felt, well, I'll tell you what it felt like because I'm supposed to be descriptive. It was, I don't use this word a lot. It was awesome to walk into the West Side Bazaar for the first time. I declined any invitations to go in there when it was under construction. I just wanted to walk in when it was under operation for the first time. And I was like, holy Toledo. It's big, it's airy, it's inclusive. There are nooks, there are places to gather. There's the whole upstairs.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal.
And I was like, it gave me such a rare sense of like, oh my God, Buffalo did something right.
Yeah, so I have to be honest that full disclosure, the company that I am the full-time senior copywriter at, called 19 Ideas, is the agency currently running the West Side Bazaar social media. And we have been since since maybe 2 weeks before. So like at the beginning of October. So I'm the one who's writing all the captioning that you're seeing on social media. So I've sort of I have some vested interest in their success. So I don't want that to color my commentary at all here.
Everybody, I'm not a very good reporter. I didn't actually know that. Okay, well, okay.
So I've been several times, and I have some hot takes. I think my primary take would be that I promised him I wouldn't publish this until after the new year because he really, really, really needs to get his sea legs. But the gentleman running the Italian restaurant there is making hands down some of the best Italian food Western New York has ever had. And yet he's a little bit overlooked because most people are going to the West Side Bazaar seeking a very adventurous meal. And so, perhaps you look at the menu and you don't see adventure, but holy mother of God, order the tomato pie. Lord in heaven, I have eaten that tomato pie 8 times in the last 3 weeks. I'm not lying. I have sent hundreds of people in there to eat this pizza. It is not the only thing he does that is amazing, but it is particularly miraculous. So I can't recommend that place enough. And I really, really suggest that when you go in, you make sure to order something at least to go from Orso Nero, even if you are not going to eat there while you're dining in. My other favorite
hold on. I don't know if I can do this, but oh no, I can't do this. You know what? You think I can put a photo in chat?
Yes, I think you can.
I'm going to add a photo to chat, but go ahead. I have a photo of the whole Osso Nero setup, and I also particularly recommend the calamari, actually.
Everything there is really great. The challenge is that he is the sole cook and bottle washer. So like he is challenged to manage when he gets an order for like a couple of 4 tops in a row. He's really, really struggling because he really is the only person there. His wife is occasionally there on at busy times to help at the cash register. The kitchen setup they have there is incredibly small. The things I have watched these folks balance their dishes on to try to like garnish them or whatever is kind of crazy. And it's not just him, it's all of them. So I do think that patience and going when it's not super busy is the key to enjoying that place, kind of regardless of where you order from. But that's always been the case at West Side Bazaar. That hasn't changed at all. And their facilities are far superior to what they had in the former location. I will also give Oralia at the Downtown Bazaar a huge shout out. I'm such a fan Really home style, simple Mexican fare. Fantastic. I think it's her in-laws that she learned the recipes from. It's really, really good stuff. So that's my take on the bazaars.
Favorite dish at Pinoy Boy?
Oh, the probably the lumpia. I'm not gonna say that right, but yeah.
I mean, who doesn't like little fried things filled with pork?
Yeah, interestingly, growing up in Seattle, my best friends that I spent time with their families as a young person, one of them was Filipino and one of them was Korean, adopted by a family that had spent a lot of time in Japan as well. So I really was lucky and spoiled to eat a lot of kind of amazing cuisine at a young age. I was also raised on a commune, which is sounds worse than it is, maybe, but we had a lot of Mexican runaways living with us, so also got spoiled in that regard. So I'm lucky that I got to eat a lot of delicious things in addition to my mother's many casseroles made with canned Campbell's soup.
Oh, okay. So the alarm has gone for the second thing, and now I'm trying to figure out how to do this from my phone. Anyways, deal with that later. So the second question, if you're ready, um, well, you know what? Maybe I should show you a little video first. So I don't know. I guess I'll tell you the story because I like giving a sense of the kind of stuff that I get up to sometimes. And so I've gone into Amira's kitchen in Riverside a bunch of times, and many more times than I've written about it.
I
And
love
I
the
like to
lamb
go,
plate.
what?
The lamb plate, I love it so much.
Yes, the lamb plate is great. Munsaf is even better. When the first time I went in there, she served me um, a drink from the Middle East that I only heard about from fantasy books. And I was like, Satlab. And I was like, wow. And then the food was just like out of control. And I'm like, what is happening here? So a couple of months ago, I noticed I went in there and I had mansaf, which is a lamb braised in fermented yogurt sauce. And it was unbelievable. Just the way that the lactic acid and that yogurt with the fermentation, what it did to lamb fat and the gravy that all that made together once it melted all down. And I asked her, "What's the recipe?" And she says, "First, you have to cut up a lamb." I was like, "Oh, well," and then she said, "Look, it's very, she was basically explaining to me, look, I make this because it's the traditional Friday night after mosque thing, but it's expensive to make a batch and people haven't been coming in and buying it, so I might not make it." And I'm like, "Are you telling me this might be your last batch of Mansaf?" And she's like, "Well, if nobody buys it, what am I going to do?" And I'm like, "Oh shit. I don't care what else is going on in the world. If this is the last batch of Mansaf this lady's making," because I was just blown away by this dish. I was like, "Well, you know what? What can I do about it? What can I do about it?" I went home and I thought about it. And I was like, "All right, that's it. I'm going to get over myself," because I've been resisting the whole like power of video thing for a while. But I have finally succumbed to the dark side. And so this is what I made. Now, I've made it. So this was like maybe the sixth video I made ever. And I've made a few since then. I've corrected a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are wrong about it. But this is what I did. I'll show you. There's no sound to it because it's stripped out, but and it's too fast. But um
Kitchen's open on Mondays. Mm.
the only sound I got to use was her saying, "Yeah," when I asked her if they were open on Monday. But I was like, you know what? When I finally put it together, I was like, this is a lot of jankiness about this, but it's got enough of the love because I'm like, this lady is doing something that is mind blowing, and there's nobody in her restaurant, and that's on me. That's my fault, right? Because this is the reality of what is in this room, and
Kitchen's
yet
open on Mondays.
her place is empty. And why? Because I failed. So since then, I have gone back to see her a few times, and prize is that you're going to get a $25 gift card to her place, so you can go see what she's up to. If you're a vegetarian person, there's tons of vegetarian things that are lovely. The falafel, lights out, all sorts. She makes all her own pickles, including the turnip pickles. So vegetarians can just absolutely get in there. But I was there the other night, and she probably will make Monsaf for a while, and but maybe she won't. So, anyways, look, this is my job, right? Trying to get people to go to places, to encourage people who are doing amazing things and give them enough money so that they stay alive, so that we can eat there. I mean, essentially, it's selfish. I want to eat the stuff. I mean, people are nice or whatever, but I want the stuff. And if I can't get you there with my words, I'm willing to bribe you. So $25, go to her place. You don't have to get the Monsaf. And here's the question. Are we ready? I've droned on for a long time. Get ready for the question. Here it is. What is Jameed? Jameed. I mean, I don't care if you look it up. It's the first one into the chat. If you don't know what it is, if you didn't bother watching that video at all ever, you probably wouldn't even know what Jameed is. Ooh, have I been too mean? Like, nobody's going to answer the question?
Sandy accidentally messaged me, and she suggested maybe perch, or maybe that's old from the last one.
Middle Eastern dried yogurt. That's right, exactly. Joseph Dillon in with the snag.
Nice.
Good prize. Dylan, is it Joseph Dillon? Dylan Joseph? I'm sorry, we haven't met. Send me an email. Tell me where you want the gift card sent, and it's in. Okay, there you go, Dylan Joseph. Well, you are on the case, because that is exactly right. And before I walked into Amira's Cafe, I didn't have an idea what this was. I hadn't have the clue. And she explained it to me, and she showed me the stuff, and she walked me through the recipe, and I'm like, this person should be encouraged, because not only is the food great, well, she's frankly adorable, and she's working really, really hard, and there's nobody in her restaurant. And I'm going to find her and the people like her and try to make sure that people have a chance, because we all know restaurants are brief periods of time. Somebody's going to have a chance to go in there and get that. And actually, I'm going to be doing another thing on it. So it's one of, like, I'm doing this thing, 4 bites, but one of the articles I'm going to send out every week is like the deep drop on like why this one dish just completely blew my doors off, and you should know about it. Well, guess who is the first one who gets the treatment? It's Amira's Monsaf. I'm sorry. And in the article, though, I'm also going to go to Alkima, which is the other place in town that has Monsaf. It's her cousin, actually, over on Union Road in the plaza. I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to do both, right? So it's not like, oh, she's the only one, but I'm like, hey, you know what? You can go to both Monsaf places and then just argue about which is the best one, because that's the most fun. Anyways. Did the video show a second? Yes. So that's Alkima, ALQIMMA on Union Road. And if you can't Google that up, Larry, shame on you. I'm only mean to him because I love. Well, that was basically what I had, for you guys. I mean, I think I've enjoyed the conversation. Before we all leave, can you give me any feedback? Does this work? Is it stupid? Should we not do this again? Should we do more? Should we do different? Am I just too annoying? Should I let the poor girl talk? If you have any feedback, you don't have to put it in chat if you don't like everybody to see it. But if you prefer to give me feedback privately, that's great. I feel like this went pretty well. What do you think, Krista?
I think you did a good job on your first try. I mean, I think
you should ruthlessly criticize me now.
No,
seriously.
No, I think you did a good job. And I think that
if anybody has earned it to put their foot in my ass, it's you.
Nah, I think you're doing fine. I think that it takes a little time to kind of find a rhythm that works, and some of that comes from feedback from the audience, and some of it just comes from time. And I think, Donnie Burtless and I had a lot of time to learn how to do podcasts, and I want you to have the same, because it's really, that growth process is part of what makes it so much fun.
And this first one was a completely flying by the pants affair. I want to save this for the end, but hey, Krista, how long before airtime did I send you that video?
25 minutes.
That's when I finished it.
Yeah.
It would have been nicer, but what am I going to say?
Those of us with ADHD can relate. Raise your hand. Yeah, like it is what it is. As long as it's done and it works, it works. I think, Andrew, you'll hit a rhythm, and you'll figure out what isn't worthy of your time and sort of what is really fundamental to your show and who you are. I just want to thank everybody here for following Andrew and for tuning in. And I always invite everyone to, reach out and DM me on Instagram or message me with an email or whatever. I love to talk to folks who care about food.
I just thought of a great feature from now on. We're going to equip the other person in this conversation with like a buzzer or like a shot collar. Like when they're like, okay, that's enough, Andrew. It'd be a way to we just get on with it. Because I do that.
I do think that if you're going to have a food writer or a chef on in the future, you should have them send you a couple pictures of things they're excited about, then that you can then show people in some way or share their screen or something, so that there's some ability to have a deeper conversation for folks who maybe weren't privy to the thing we're talking about. That would be my one point.
Prep. Well, I'll send that to my producing team and let them know.
I know.
Thank you so much, everyone. This has been not nearly as catastrophic as it could have turned out to be. Send me your emails. I work for you guys now. What do you want? I mean, this can go in a lot of different directions, but hopefully it's a good one. And the point is here, I can actually hear from my customers now what they want. The email address is Andrew at 4bites, FOURBITES.net, or agalarno@gmail.com. They actually both end up in the same place. Look, guys, suggestions for future guests. At some point in the next time, hopefully by next week, I will have actually rigged up the quiz things. We can actually do the interactive gizmo situation. I don't know if that's fun or not. I guess at some point I should link up like a whole set of like buzzers or something, right? Like noise sound effects, ding dong. No, don't do it. No, I'm not going to do the sound effects. See, this is it. This is feedback. This is shaping it in real time. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Bye, friends.
Bye, Krista. Thank you.